Now we have two living models for gun violence, and this was point two that me and Tiger Lily tended to disagree with, or disagree on. Was she felt that guns are a bit of a cultural thing, and that we as America are way too steeped in guns, that we were founded in guns. I mean, hell, we had the Second Amendment. Our country was born of a bloody conflict, gun conflict, between us and Britain, and later between us and, well, basically us. And I can't completely refute that, but the founding fathers, by and large, were either agnostic, atheist, or deist. We were, to some degree, almost founded by those religions to some degree. Yet, we aren't a theocracy, though at times we act like one. Now, I know that's a rather weak argument, but just because we were founded on something, just because to some degree we somewhat perpetuate some of these things, I don't agree that that does not mean we cannot change. I founded my last channel on the idea of change. I keep going with this channel on the idea of change. And no, I'm not talking about the Obama change or whatever you want to jump on my throat about. I mean systemic change, societal changes, attitude changes. Because for every Denmark, we have Sweden. Links to a lot of their facts and things of that nature down in the underbar. Sweden has the most guns per capita. And like Denmark, they have little or no deaths, gun violence. Or at the very least, they have no misuse of guns. There's also Australia. And places therein where they have gun laws, where you have to be licensed, you have to be trained, and then you have to keep being tested throughout your life in order to continue to have your gun. This also cuts down on gun misuse. And I think that even the most fervent of gun nut can come together about wanting to reduce the misuses of guns. But again, you talk regulation and people's heads start spinning into this idea of, oh, we want to seize your guns by force kind of thing. Just like how they say that if you're getting divorced, you have about 5 seconds to reassure the children that it's not their fault, or otherwise their wheels will start spinning and they'll think that it's their fault, thus making human interaction along with procreation just that much more difficult. But I digress. But see, there's Denmark. No guns except for warring criminals. And they're not being robbed, they're not being taken over, they're not being shot, by and large, in terms of your average citizen. Now, there is gun violence, yes, and you can still argue that, but that's moot when most of the gun violence just involves the gangs themselves and killing the gang members themselves. But this shows that you can't completely expel guns. It's just not going to happen. Not that Tiger Lily was saying that, and I'm not bringing up her video to say this, but I am bringing it up for the cultural idea here. But for that model, we have the exact opposite. We have a place where everybody has guns. Now, as my very apt friend James1978 pointed out, and he does have a point. He does have a point, but I still feel that this still stands, and I'll explain why. But I'll bring out his point, because far be it for me to actually expunge critical thought, critical criticisms of any positions that I have held. Sweden does not have an army. They have a militia. They arm themselves in case, I believe as he put it, in case Switzerland decides that they're going to then invade Sweden. But again, just like with Australia, these people, they don't just like, oh, here's a gun. They teach you from an early age how to shoot, how to take care of your guns, how to maintain them. They license you, they test you, and they retest you, and they retest you. Basically they've put a lid on gun misuse by making sure that you damn well have to work for your gun ownership. But see, this works in favor of those who would want to at least keep guns where they are for the most part. Because if we can change ourselves systemically, if we can change the very factors that make Sweden Sweden and Denmark Denmark in our society today, in American society today, then we could foreseeably keep our guns and not be shooting everybody up. If we have better health care and access to health care, for instance, better mental health care, if we have a better economy, we have better opportunities, and we're willing to go the extra step. We're willing to be the rising tide that lifts all boats, not just the top percentile's boats. Then people don't feel discriminated against. People don't feel downtrodden. They don't get frustrated. They don't get angry. They don't generally get to the point to where, as a people, they feel the need to take up a gun and misuse it, to take up a gun and rob, to take up a gun and all this stuff. We've also had moments in our history as a country where gun violence was not an issue. Not to mention the fact that as it stands right now, gun violence, as it stands as of right now, is the 15th leading cause of death in this country. Excuse me if I don't see this as huge of an issue as, say, with all due respect, you, Miss Lady Tiger Lily. It's 15. When it cracks the top 10, granted, 15 is pretty high up there, but when it cracks the top 10, I am more than willing to start saying, okay, this has overtaken where it was and is now made itself into a huge issue. But I don't believe that if we enact all the things that both me and Miss Tiger Lily want to enact, that it will somehow be a sweeping change that will change this country. We need to fix things from the ground up. We need equality, and not just in the feminist ideal of it. I mean in the MRA feminist coming together kind of ideal, within reason kind of ideal, where we fix the actual social ills, where people don't have to feel different from one another. One of the things we could do in that respect as well is abolish things like calling ourselves African American, thus making us a different classification of American instead of what we all are, which is Americans. Unless you hold dual citizenship, in which, hey, fine, good on you. I know that I'm asking a lot, and in a way, Tiger Lily is right. If we take things as they stand, outside, leading cause of deaths notwithstanding, your average person, your general average person, is not necessarily inclined to be able to grasp the true causes of this situation. And that's bad. That is part of what's hurting us. But it's not the only thing that's hurting us. And it's not the only danger that exists in this topic, because unfortunately a technology that I have been talking about and championing for a few weeks now is encroaching onto making a mistake, having an ability to its technology that, if exploited, could unfortunately cause the technology to have a major setback. And that really upsets me, because this is a kind of technology that we could use, that we really need. That could be something that could solve a lot of problems if it was properly propagated. But I will get into that in more details Again, Tiger Lily's video is down in the underbar. I suggest subscribing to her. I agree with 95% of the things that she ever says. She's very on topic. She's very on top of things. I love her work. Um, Links to, the Gifford articles and all this stuff, as well as the political facts about how we're not actually #1 in gun violence, but again, I digress, and facts about Sweden and all this other stuff. We're close to wrapping this little mini series up. After that time, at which time I will walk away, because again, you're all not serious about this topic. You're either too extreme on one side or the other, or you're willing to fix things that don't need fixing, like contraception or the lack thereof, uh, instead of fixing this gun issue. But again, we've got other issues that are coming up on the horizon within this topic that need addressing.